What's going on, everyone? And welcome in to this edition of B Schaeff Daily Live as we're breaking down a Cardinals winner tonight, 7-6 over the Miami Marlins in 12. Yeah, I didn't know they could do 12-inning games anymore in MLB with the new Rob Manfred rules over the last couple of years, but it happened tonight with the Cardinals outlasting the Marlins thanks to the heroics of a number of guys on the team. Sonny Gray had a great start. There was a bullpen performance that should not go overlooked from Ryan Fernandez, who was able to keep the Cardinals in this thing. And the Masyn win with the home run. What a moment that was. It almost didn't mean very much, though, because the Marlins were threatening in the bottom half. And then Dylan Carlson. The weirdness with that play in the right field corner. The ball gets lodged under the wall. He puts his arms up as you're supposed to do. Ultimately, they said it wasn't lodged under the wall. I thought Dylan did the exact right thing. Other than he kind of double clutched it. Like, if you're going to do that move, I think you just have to do it and you have to stick with it. You can't kind of be like half in, half out. But if the ruling was that the ball was not lodged under there, I don't know what they're looking at. Stupid design of a wall, by the way. Just don't do that. It just don't have that be a possible thing. But yeah, you thought that moment could really harm the Cardinals because what happens if there's a sacrifice fly situation? Runner's not going from second to third. He's going from third to home. Well, I'll be damned if there wasn't that exact scenario. But DC said, that's okay. Ball don't lie, and guns him down at the plate. I know guns him down might be a little bit of an insensitive way to phrase it, but I was the one that got shot, not you guys. So, anyway, Dylan Carlson, what a play, and the Cardinals win it. Andrew Kittredge getting his first win as a Cardinal reliever. I wonder if he gets the ride in the laundry cart. I think not. It's not his first Major League win, but it is his first with the Cardinals. Wow. Wow is all you can say. Look, this was a game the Cardinals could not afford to lose. Not because it would have meant the season was over, but just because it would have been disgusting to lose to this Marlins team with Sonny Gray on the mound, going up against Braxton Garrett. It's another example of the Cardinals taking on a guy with a 6 ERA, and they lower his ERA for him by almost a run. It's a tale as old as time. Kyle Hendricks over the weekend, he did the same thing, except his ERA was like 9. Anyway, this was one the Cardinals, you would have had a really bad taste in your mouth if they would have lost it. And they're ultimately able to get the win. How they did it was definitely with some pizzazz, but that's not as important as the fact that they do get the win. They do improve to one game above 500. And now, I don't know, does it feel a little bit more real that this Cardinals team could have some juice? Or were there still plenty of concerns for you in the game that make you think, I'm not really ready to buy in just yet? But those are sort of the topics on the table tonight. I'm going to kick it off right now reading the live chat. Appreciate you guys for being here as always. Again, if you want to join in the live chat, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel. And then I'll be reading for sure the live comments of some of my channel members. And if you want to join that, I don't think I put the link in the description, but you could click on literally any other YouTube video that I've put out on the channel, or probably there's a way to do it live in this stream because my YouTube studio shows me how many new members joined during the video. So if you're interested in that, that's something that's available to you as well. Jay Calls says that throw was a dart, and that's how we begin our live chat tonight. 100% it was a dart. Where he was positioned, and he told Jim the Cat Hayes on the postgame show that that's why he's playing in that spot, because he's got to be at the just almost the upper limit of conceivable to be able to make a play at the plate. And if it goes over his head, well, you probably lose the game anyway. But that was the spot where he needed to be. It was the spot where Dylan Carlson was able to make a play, and he threw a strike to Pedro Pages at home plate, slapped the tag on him, and it won the Cardinals the game. I mean, I was in awe. My jaw was on the floor. What a play by Dylan Carlson, who is a momentum player, right? I've talked a lot about this, and when we see his momentum going in a negative direction, oftentimes that sort of ends up being the snowball rolling down the hill. It stays that way. But this was an example of him doing the exact opposite. That momentum from the overturned replay that gave the extra base to the runner because of him, putting his arms up and saying, hey, the ball is lodged, and they said, no, it wasn't. That's the kind of play that can take, I think at times this year and at times throughout his career, it would have taken Dylan Carlson out of the game, just mentally, right? But it didn't happen here. He was exactly where he needed to be and made the throw of the Cardinals season to date. What a throw by Carlson. What a time to do it, too. He's got an arm. We might forget that at times, but he reminded us tonight with that one. Incredible, incredible play to make it in that moment. You had to have it, right? Otherwise, you're talking about a 13th inning probably, and he comes up with it. Remarkable. Brandon says, I was at the game tonight. Winn's bat flip was epic. I didn't see the bat flip live. I got to go back and find that one. But, man, he had to be feeling good. It was a 3-strikeout game, I believe, for Masyn Winn before he hit the homer. So he's kind of going through it a little bit, not used to maybe having that level of failure this year. And ultimately, he goes 2 for 6 and big couple of RBIs on that home run. They needed them both, too. When you're going back and forth in extra innings, it's not enough sometimes to just score that guy from second. That's why when the Marlins kept bunting, I kept thinking, let them. Especially when they were bunting and they were down in the bottom of the 12th. I'm like, that is a free gift to the Cardinals. Now, if you're the Marlins in the 11th inning when they were bunting, or the 10th, whichever time it was, and you have a 1-run chance to win the game, that's a little bit different. And I can understand in that spot alone to bunt. But I had somebody arguing with me on Twitter, Masyn Winn should have been bunting to try to get Siani over when he walked in the 9th. Not for me. Not for me. I think in Masyn Winn's case, man, he shows you what he can do with the home run. I would just not like to give away outs. I understand it, but this Cardinals team has not been great with RISP anyway. I'm taking 3 cracks at trying to get a ball in the gap and score the guy from first. And frankly, I'd like to see Siani be able to steal second base, even off a lefty. He wasn't able to do it. He got thrown out eventually to end that top of the 9th. But still, I had no issue with Masyn Winn not bunting. Like, never bunt unless you're Siani, in which case he's really good at it and is not likely to change the game with one swing, except for when he did to score the first run for the Cardinals tonight. I don't know. This was a weird game. I don't really have all the answers for you. It was bizarre. It was a bizarre game, but the Cardinals win it, man. That's what they needed, and I feel like the team will get a jolt from that because finally they were able to get above 500. It had been a strain to get to 500, and they had done it a number of times without getting over the hump, and it seemed like every which way they could possibly blow this game tonight, it was on the table to have it happen, and ultimately they still found a way to win. The Grave of Einstein joins the B Shape Daily gang. Welcome to the channel membership, Einstein, one of my favorites. Appreciate you for hopping in, buddy. Rena is in, and she says DC with the game saver. Missed a lot of the game, but glad she saw that. Yeah, a lot of Cardinals fans were glad to have seen that. And Jen is in the house as well. I think we all forget how good DC can be when he has a chance to play. Are we back to hashtag everyday Dylan? Look, for right now, and with Tommy Edman around the corner, I think it's going to be a longer rehab for him. But there's some merit right now to leaving Dylan in this lineup on a daily basis. I think you want to see more offensively from him, but he's slowly been providing that. The defensive aspect, though, is what you can often forget. Remember, a couple of years ago, I was pretty convinced that Dylan Carlson was the best defensive center fielder in this organization. There are times this year where he has been flat out awful in center field. But I maintain that it's mental, it's momentum, it's give the guy a little bit, and he will provide, I think, in the long run. But he's got to gain the confidence to do it. And sometimes that could be a frustrating thing to wait for. Like, if I'm seeing it through the lens of this organization, I would say, well, I can't just wait forever, right? But I think they have done a nice job as much as you can this year with, they probably rushed him back from injury. So how often do you feel compelled to play him when it doesn't look right in the hopes that it could start to look right? I think that's been the line that Oli Marmol's been trying to walk with Dylan. And boy, were they repaid with a play tonight that, again, I think that stands out of all the defensive plays so far this year. There have been some good ones at times. This was in about as big of a moment as you could think. The big catch by Nootbaar that ended up being a double play, that might be on the level of what Dylan Carlson did. But the throw, I mean, that is just a seed to home plate. NEA is happy about WINN, Masyn Winn. Thank you for spelling that right. I know some people put the Y in the last name. It's in the first name. No big deal, but that's what it is. Brian says, gotta love it when Masyn emulates his hero. And Tommy added, big win for the Cardinals. Game over 500. Keep fighting for win close games this year. Yeah, they have been winning some close ones. It'd be nice to see him win by scoring 6 or 7 and doing it in regulation and not having to have the 13, 12-inning marathons. But hey, you take what you can get. Up to 40 likes. Let's see if we can get it up to 50. Up to 40, though, that seems to be pretty relevant for the timing of things right now, because if you've been paying any attention to what's going on in the news, Wilson Contreras starting up a rehab assignment here before too long, and he did say it's not going to be July when he gets back. It's going to be June, and I think we may very well see that. We had a joke on the Big Show on KTGR for the last couple of weeks. Would Wilson Contreras be back before the NBA Finals ended? The joke being that the NBA Finals takes forever to play out. They have multiple off days between each game. He almost did make it back, though, before the finals ended. And I do think it is going to be June. Juner rather than later, if you know what I'm saying. 5 times 5 Brenden. Don't know what that means, Brian, but I'm glad you're here. Ethan wants to know if we're back. Are we back? I mean, you guys, I'm more just like watching from afar. But the Cardinals could be back. I still think you need to see more offensively in like regulation without free runners on second base. But the pitching has been really good. The pitching has gotten you through. And for what the offense has been able to do, which is just enough, you're feeling pretty good about things. And again, you're getting Wilson back soon. You're getting Tommy Edman back, hopefully, before the All-Star break. I think Lars Nootbaar is going to be after the break. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be a little bit after the break. But, you know, you do have guys returning. And so that could pay dividends for this Cardinals team. Graham says Winnington. Hashtag Everyday Dylan from Alex. And then Aaron, thank you for letting me know that you had me. I got to scroll down these sometimes. Jen had me as well. Graham, oh no, we lost the comments. It happens sometimes. YouTube jumps on me. Brett, what's going on? Brett's a subscriber, or pardon me, a channel member, so his comment reads as such. Cardinals team is raising his heart rate by a significant amount nightly, but wins are wins, even though I don't think this kind of play is sustainable if we want to win in September and even October. I'll add to that. Look, I don't know how long the pitching is going to be able to carry you. You want the offense to be able to do it. Now, obviously, tonight you gave up 6. So how much was it a great pitch game? It was by Sonny Gray. And then we can get into the decision to take him out. And they didn't get into it quite to the level that I would have hoped post-game. So many things happened after that in extra innings that I think that was not quite as top of mind for the reporters that were there, so I understand it. Sonny, to my surprise a little bit, I thought this might have been a night where we would have heard him say, yeah, he asked out. Instead, he said this was a game that, you know, as I'm efficient there in the middle innings, my mindset is to finish the game. Obviously, it went 12, so that wouldn't happen. But, you know, I think he probably did want to stay in the game, and Oli pulled him out. Now, you look at the matchups there, what's supposed to happen is JoJo Romero gets the lefty out. That's what's supposed to happen. Instead, and by the way, Jazz Chisholm at that point in the game, I believe, was 2 for 2 with a triple and a walk against Sonny Gray. So that's part of the reason that you see that play out there. And then once you walk Jazz Chisholm, that's the grave error that JoJo Romero made, because he gives up the home run to De La Cruz. De La Cruz does have reverse splits if you're looking at OPS. He's better against right-handed pitching than lefty throughout his career from a power standpoint. Now, he does have a higher batting average this year against lefties, so really 6 of one, half dozen of the other. At that point, I think you play to your strengths as a team if you're the Cardinals, rather than worry about what his strength or weakness is. Granted, I thought Sonny Gray might have been the strength, and so I, in the moment, thought probably keep Sonny in, but I also have kind of learned to this point, like, there are conversations that happen between Sonny and Oli that sometimes we don't find out about until after, and I thought it might have been one of those times where he was sweating a lot. It looked like, you know, the long delay of the previous inning had maybe worn him down, but he was only at 84 pitches. So I understand, though, like, when you look at matchups and say that he's been beaten by Jazz Chisholm 3 times, maybe that's the right decision. But the other side of that is, like, it doesn't end the game. It doesn't even blow the lead if Jazz Chisholm hits a homer off of Sonny Gray in that spot. But to walk Jazz Chisholm and then give up the homer to De La Cruz, it was the singular worst-case scenario for JoJo, and it happened. I don't think that means he's been overworked. Like, we've talked about this, that the overworked aspect of it, like, yes, they've ridden Kittredge, they've ridden JoJo, but these guys, it's not like either of them are leading the league in pitches. Maybe JoJo's getting up there a little bit. Ryan Fernandez probably after night is getting up there a little bit more too. But I looked this up. It's been a couple of weeks, so I might have to update the numbers. But none of the Cardinal relievers were even in the top 30 in MLB in pitches thrown. So, yes, they're worked, but they're also on the team to pitch. Their profession is pitcher. So I don't have an issue with these guys throwing often. I do think Oli Marmol's got to have his finger on the pulse of how they are day to day and who's available and who shouldn't be. But largely, they're there to pitch, so I want them pitching. But I do think that there is a case to be made that from that Ryan Fernandez tier, and especially like Matthew Liberatore, you could see Liberatore come in for some of those spots too. I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that Libby shouldn't be considered at least alongside JoJo as the top lefty on this team in terms of what he's done in relief. I think they've underutilized Liberatore since he came out of the rotation. Myself personally, I think you could probably push him into more of those leverage spots so that it doesn't always have to be JoJo. But, you know, it is one of those things that happened. I was just a little bit surprised, and I know people were riding Oli, and if they had lost this game, that was going to be all that we talked about. The decision to take him out in the first place and not let Sonny continue at 84 pitches. I was wondering, I was trying to hold off, because if that was a spot where he asked out, then obviously that's the decision, and there's not really a decision to be made for Oli Marmol. But I don't get the sense that that's what it was, and it wasn't something that got talked about too much because of a win. So that saves everybody the sort of uncomfortable conversations over what it might have been had they lost the game. Rhino says, thanks for the live chat, Shafe. Got to work at 6 a.m., so he'll catch us on the flip side. Yep, it'll all be posted on Spotify and YouTube in its entirety, basically. So if you have to go to bed, don't worry about it. You can find it anywhere you want to find it tomorrow. And if you can't find it, shoot me a message on Twitter at bschaefer12. David says the offense is still worrisome, but the game had it all. Let's enjoy it. Yeah, I think you should enjoy every win, Cardinals fans. Like, I get it. You want to be 10 games above 500. You want to be in first place. You know, right now it's just like enjoy these wins because there's going to come a time in September, October, maybe not till November. Who knows how this Cardinals team and how long they'll go. But there won't be Cardinal baseball. So enjoy the wins when you get them, man. This is what it's all about. Tonight was fun, and it was about 10 different ways they could have blown this game late. And ultimately to be able to win it in 12 was a marathon, more so than I thought it would be. Glad this game was on the East Coast. If this was a West Coast game, we would not be doing a live stream. I can promise you that much. Aaron says tomorrow's game will just be the third time since April of last season that the Cardinals will be playing above 500, which is kind of crazy to think about. Brenden says, Carlson is my favorite player, so seeing him make that throw made me really happy. Yeah, Brenden, Carlson's a good guy to like, and I think a lot of Cardinals fans just want to will him to succeed. He's a good player. He just has to find the rhythm and momentum maybe more so than most. You know, he's reliant upon that, and when he's got it, it's great. And if he can keep that rolling and keep that confidence, he can do some very significant things in this game. Beefy said, good to see him fight back after losing the lead. Brian wants to know if JoJo should have been given the day off. I don't think so. I just think he wasn't sharp. And look, Oli is going to, each time you bring in a guy who doesn't succeed, I think what's going to end up happening is that you kind of take note of that and go, okay, is this a guy that I'm overworking a little bit? Is this a guy that needs a day? Those sorts of things. Scotty, what's going on? He's another channel member. Arenado, I know you said you'd be happily batting 7th, but, hold on. Let me start over. I know you said you would happily bat him 7th, but I feel he needs time out. The biggest Arenado fan, though, so it's not hate-filled. Just want to see do better. That's from Scotty. In Arenado's throw, great pick by Goldie to end the game as well. Yeah, but not a 0 for 6. I actually think I had said that it was Goldie that I would put 7th and Arenado 5th, but, kind of pick your poison right now. It seems like when one of those guys has a nice game, the other one tends to struggle, and it's just been tough to find them both going at the same time. But no, I hear you with Arenado. It's you're riding the wave right now. You'd like to see him get consistent, but we'll see how long that takes. Moonanite says Rick Ankiel-esque throw, and boy, was that ever true. Jen agrees with Brett. Hit the nail on the head. Cardiac Cardinals are killing me. How many Cardinals fans out there feel like that? I bet there's a number of them. I don't know why Robert is saying he thought I'd be taller. I'm only as tall as I am, but I'll be loud to make up for the lack of height. I'm not even standing. I don't know how you could tell I'm not tall, but I'm not tall. That's true. Trevor says Ryan Fernandez will be an unsung hero of the game, but oh man, that's a gutsy performance. Yeah, I mentioned him off the top because I wanted to make sure we didn't forget about him. 2 shutout innings doing what he did, and an extra inning as part of that. 1 walk is all he allowed, and I think it was a bit of a strategic walk at the time. A couple of strikeouts. He has been really, really good. I mean, for a Rule 5 pickup to be doing what he's doing, it is substantial. Don't overlook that at all in this one. Significant. What do you think has to be the biggest need at the deadline? We have to pick up some power. That's from Beefy. And I would say the biggest need at the deadline could still be a number 5 starter. It could still be another elite reliever. Because, look, with Gio coming back, Gallegos is supposed to come back here any minute now. And I'm not 100% sure that it's going to be the right idea. Like, I don't know that it's going to work out. If he blows up and has another bad outing, first of all, I think you don't bring in Gio unless it's a down by several runs situation. Even an up by several makes you a little bit nervous after what we've seen from him and what he's done on the rehab assignments. It hasn't been strong, but I think you have to have a short leash with him. But there's going to be maybe one roster spot out of that bullpen that you want to strengthen up and turn it from maybe that long relief emergency option out of the pen from the right side to finding another legit 8th, 9th inning candidate. Because I think with JoJo, he'll level out. I really do like Libby, and to me, he's your number 2, if not your number 1 lefty out there. And then John King is a really capable number 3 left-hander. And then the other 5 should be righties. You like Kittredge. He struggled, but he's, tonight was tough. He had guys on base that he didn't put there, and you got to pitch around that. Ultimately got the win. So he did a nice enough job tonight. But Helsley, we know that he's been a little spotty with the fastball command, but he's going to be your dude. He's the league leader in saves. Was just simply unavailable tonight after pitching 2 out of the 3 games over the weekend. So those are righties that you feel good about. And obviously Ryan Fernandez is one you feel really good about. And Roycroft, I think, has the potential. We'll see if he can continue to build off of his opportunities. And then Kyle Leahy, one of those guys, Roycroft Leahy, is probably who has to go down for Gio, barring an injury. But in the October mindset of baseball, I think they need one more lockdown setup man. Ideally, somebody with some closing experience. It was supposed to be Gio. It was supposed to be Keenan Middleton. Those guys have gone down to injury. Gio more so ineffectiveness. And so you've got to roll with that. But that's a need to me at the deadline. And Mozeliak had talked about on Blogger Day, he mentioned right-handed hitting center fielder. Frankly, I don't really see that if Tommy Edman is back because I don't know who you're displacing. Maybe you're sending Michael Ciani down. Maybe that's the answer. But I also value Michael Ciani off the bench. He is an ideal 4th outfielder, or maybe even an ideal 5th outfielder if you're going to carry 2 bench outfielders, because he can come into every game for defense and he can come into every game to pinch run. He's got good speed. Like, those are the types of things in innings 7, 8, 9 that I'd be looking to utilize him every single game. Even after tonight's home run, which is great, I don't know that he is a starting caliber outfielder every day when it comes to what he does offensively. So that would be maybe something that I could see you trying to do. But once you get guys back from injury, I don't really know how you massage the roster. I get the point that Beefy wants to pick up some power. I don't know who you pick up or where you put that player in your lineup. Like, you're not sitting Paul Goldschmidt. You're not sitting Arenado, other than a game here and there. For prolonged stretches, you're not doing it. Gorman, you're not sitting, right? He is the power if he's playing well. And he hasn't been. He sat tonight, but he's not, the Cardinals are going to need him. If this thing's going to go where they want it to go, Cardinals are going to need him. So, those are sort of the questions that I would have when you are looking at, as I want to adjust my laptop screen here a little bit, when you're looking at the power of this offense, it has to come from the guys that currently aren't supplying it, but those aren't guys that you're going to put on the bench. So I don't think there's a guy out there that you go get. I don't know what position that guy plays. I don't know what that looks like, and I just don't see the Cardinals adding a middle order bat because they would almost have to trade away from their roster to do it. Maybe you do. Maybe I'm not trying to pick out a name, but maybe you take I don't think they're trading Alec Burleson, but it would be something like that where you're trading a young guy that's got team control, and trying to almost upgrade, but you're playing with fire if you do that because Alec Burleson might be one of your better hitters. You just don't know. So I don't really think offense is going to be in the cards very much other than maybe upgrade the bench. Maybe get a guy that can play some different positions but can hit a little bit better than what they're getting from like a Fermin at this point. I think more so it's going to be, what does that number 5 starter look like? What does the bullpen look like? Those are the biggest spots to me at the deadline. And it kind of stinks to just feel like you're going to hold your breath and pray that the offense improves. But I don't know, barring like a really bold multiplayer trade that moves somebody from this offense that's in the big leagues, I don't really know what they do to improve it. Steven hates to say it for fear of jinxing, but watching Winn feels like watching MJ play in college. We're seeing the rise of an athlete who may never stop elevating to the moment. Exhilarating. That's high praise if we're talking Michael Jordan, but Masyn Winn is a dude. And he's going to continue to show that, I think, for a long, long time in St. Louis. Steven wants to know, another Steven, is Winn and Burley the future faces of the Cardinals over the next 10 to 15 years, the next homegrown stars? Maybe more could be added to that, but mainly those two proving it. Now, Winn definitely, I think, is. I think he already is elevating to that point. Burleson, we'll see. I'm not convinced of that yet, but I do like Alec Burleson. Brett, another member comment. Biggest takeaway is our players might not have much playing time when others get healthy. Ciani, Pajes, Herrera, even Dillon are kind of the only ones other than Winn right now contributing. Yeah, I mean, you get some spells from Brendan Donovan and some spells from some different guys, but certainly it's been lean overall offensively. But how about that weekend for Pedro Pajes? And to do it on Father's Day, his dad in the house, really cool stuff. And continuing to do a nice job tonight throughout a runner stealing. Like, he's the guy behind the plate until further notice, until Wilson gets back. I think Herrera should mostly just be DHing for right now. Best part of the game was when Pajes threw the runner out and then did the little finger gun. Zero aura. I loved it. I didn't see the finger gun. I got to check that out, Einstein. Nick said the manager is wearing the bullpen out, puts the starters closer to 100 pitches. They've overused Romero and Kittredge. Look, I understand the premise. The narrative is that they've overworked the bullpen. I don't know for sure that it's quite to the degree that a lot of people have said so or have felt so about it this year. But I understand that is sort of the concern. But I would also submit that, look, these guys are on the team, and their value is to be on the mound and pitch. Are you running the risk at times of burning out a relief pitcher? Of course. That's something that is a tale as old as time in baseball. But I also look at it and really do think that, they're there to pitch. And so there's going to be some element of I just think those guys are going to – I'm trying to find the number of pitches. If I can find this and sort this by reliever versus starter, I can tell you updated where some of these Cardinals are in terms of number of pitches. Because if we're talking about burning out relievers, I think a good way to decide that is, all right, how many pitches have they thrown? Let's count them. How many pitches have they thrown relative to what everybody else in baseball is doing? Maybe that's a reasonable way to look at it. And so I'm trying to find if I can locate exactly where some of the marquee Cardinals might be in that category. You might be surprised to learn that JoJo Romero is 74th in baseball in pitches thrown. That's not a reliever that's been burnt out to me. That's a guy who's throwing, and there's two whole teams worth of relievers in terms of like the guy who throws the most on that team and the guy who throws the most on the next team, all 30 teams twice over before you get to JoJo. Ryan Fernandez has thrown more pitches than JoJo, and nobody's talking about burning out Ryan Fernandez. So to me, I think it's overblown. If there's a moment in the season where the guy has obviously been ridden kind of hard, so he loses some effectiveness on his pitches, that's different. But I don't look at the manager and say, oh, how could he not know? Well, look, they've managed it because he's not even in the top 70 in pitches thrown from MLB relievers. And Kittredge, I think, is even lower than that. So I understand it. I get the point of it. I think it's a little bit misplaced, and it's just a little bit easy to look at and say, oh, he gave up a homer. Must mean he's overworked. No, sometimes you get beat because the guy on the other side is trying to beat you too. But Matt mentions good for Ryan Fernandez. Hell yeah, it was. Impressive. I got taking Sonny out, says Grave of Einstein. Jazz had been really good against him. Sonny had not looked as dominant as you would expect to be with that line. Especially toward the end, it seemed like he started to wear down a little bit. And that's what cracks me up about the comments I see on Twitter where people say, oh, Oli doesn't manage with his eyes. He's just managing with the analytics. It's like the literal opposite of that. To see, okay, Sonny Gray is wearing down a little bit. Here's the spot of what's happened in the game today. Here's how Jazz Chisholm has taken ABs against him. It's a lefty-lefty. We just need to get this one out from JoJo Romero, and maybe he pitches the 8th as well. Maybe not. Who knows? The 9th as well. But this is just the spot where we can get that lefty-lefty matchup and be done. You're not counting on JoJo to walk him, and that's the one thing he couldn't do. You'd rather him get homered off of so you can regroup with the bases empty against De La Cruz, but he walked him, and it's an execution mistake by JoJo Romero. But JoJo Romero's had a really good season for the Cardinals, and those things are going to happen. It was just a brutal time for it. It was a brutal moment for that to happen to JoJo. We can get to 60 likes, and I bet even beyond that. Big Mac number 70, I think we can get there. Bryn says, Everyday Dylan, hashtag Everyday Dylan. I almost started saying happy, but the last name was Harper. That was my bad. Got the job done, says Brent. Doesn't matter how it's over. LFG. And Tim, a lot of people are saying the triumvirate is being overused, but what if the league is figuring them out and they're in the middle of adjusting? Absolutely. And Ryan Helsley has been adjusting for a couple of weeks now, and I still don't think he's quite there. But he hasn't blown any saves during it. The one time he blew a game was when it was tied in the 9th inning last Tuesday, about a week ago almost at this point, in the Paul Skeens-Miles Michaelis game. He gave up runs in the top of the 9th, but there was nobody, it was a tie game. It was not a lead, so it's not a blown save. But to be able to get away with the struggles he's had a little bit with fastball command, his slider's been really good, and he's been able to kind of make it through. Brian is doubting that Trevor Bauer could have made that throw, and Trevor Bauer's not, still noticing he's not on an MLB team. So, what is with the seemingly early polls of our starts at like 70 or 80 pitches, unless Sonny explicitly asked to come out tonight, like he has before, he should have finished the inning, in my opinion. Yeah, Brett, and that's another member chat. I do think that I would have kept Sonny in there unless there was something like you said where he asked to come out. But he did look like he was wearing down, and Brett, it's always going to be game situation. I don't necessarily agree that you could make the claim that, Oli Marmol is always taking pitchers out too early, just as like a general rule, and say that's a tendency that he has. I think he's always eagerly hunting down the matchups late in games. Innings 7, 8, and 9, he's hunting it down. So if you have a bad matchup for a starter who's now seeing a guy in a lineup for the third time, maybe even the fourth time by then, that is typically where I think Oli Marmol tends to make the move, because he's got weapons that he can deploy in the bullpen. And so that's the reason for it. A lot of times recently that's come with pitch counts in the 70s or 80s, and it looks a little bit weird, but it's happening sometimes after 7 innings. Even in the 8th tonight it happens. That the starter's done his job at that point, and so you can even be a little bit more aggressive, I think, in the mind of the manager to say this is a spot where we can exploit the matchup better than what Sonny Gray has been able to exploit so far tonight against Jazz Chisholm. On base 3 times, had a triple, 2 for 2 with a walk. You make the move, and you hopefully don't walk him. You're not, but like you're not going in, and I understand this from Oli too. When you bring JoJo into that game, you're not doing so with the mind that, well, what happens if he walks him? Then it's a bad matchup against De La Cruz, which not even really, because De La Cruz has a lower OPS for the season and for his career against lefties rather than righties. Lower slug as well. It's just one of those things that he got beat. But I think that's why you look at the spot and go, if he gets his man, there's no problem. And lefty on lefty, he's usually getting his man. The problem comes when he walks the guy. It's uncharacteristic from JoJo, and it was a terrible spot to do it. But you're not, as a manager, going, all right, but if he walks him, then the tying runs up. Well, sure, that's true regardless of who's on the mound. But I think they really like the matchup better with JoJo, which is probably why it didn't even get pursued that much. Oli really, he said he thought about taking him out before the 8th. But given that he was thinking about taking him out before the 8th and talked about that at some length after the game, the question didn't really need to be asked, well, why did you take him out in the middle of the 8th? Well, everything I just said, plus the matchups, dictated that I should. Do I agree with it? No. Did Sonny? It doesn't sound like he did this time. But I also I don't think it necessarily would have cost them the game. Like, I just look at that and say, do I disagree with the decision? I do. I can see both sides of it, though. And it certainly didn't pan out because of JoJo walking his man. That's his lefty to get, and he didn't do it. So that's where you run into trouble. And David adding that he did seem a little upset about being taken out, considering his post-game comments. I agree with you. At one point, to end the presser, to end the availability with the media at his locker, they were kind of asking more about his thoughts on being taken out and on, what he was trying to do, finish the game, okay. And he basically said, I'm not really going to say any more than that. Like, I'm not going to get put into a spot where I say something regrettable that makes it look like there's discord between myself and the manager. And there's not, because if there was, Sonny Gray would say it, right? So did he agree with the decision? I don't think he did. I think you're right. I don't think he did agree with the decision to be taken out. He wanted to finish the game. But at the same time, it's, you're in the 8th inning. They have a matchup against a guy that's killed you all night, and they can throw a lefty at him. I understand the decision. I probably would have left him in personally, but I also understand the decision. What I don't like is it's his man on second base. When you walk the next guy, now the tying run is at the plate, and Sonny, I think, should have been given the opportunity to get the tying run to the plate. Like if he walks Chisholm, or Chisholm gives up a bomb to Chisholm or a hit to Chisholm, now the tying run's at the plate. That's where you have to step in, maybe as the manager. But when the tying run is not at the plate and you pitch that well, I think you kind of, and you're at the pitch count that can allow for it, I think you're kind of in a spot where I would side with the starter and say, until the tying run's even at the plate, nothing bad can happen, right? You can give up a homer, nothing bad can happen. You're still in the lead when you leave the game. That might be, and maybe that's a stupid way to look at it, but mentally that's how I cataloged it, personally. Aaron says, definitely becoming a trend that Sonny is generally effective for 80 pitches. He's really good, then seems like the tank just runs dry. Yeah, he does not have that 100-pitch, I don't think, that 100-pitch workload that's going to be automatic. Some guys do, some guys don't. You notice it more with some guys than others. He pitched into the 8th, though. Think about the number of up-downs that is, the long inning before that where he was out there for a while, and then you sit for a while. It's just, I understand it. But I also see your point that it's kind of been in that 80-pitch range where you start to look for him to wear down a little bit. Thank you big time to Jen, who went with the super chat. I don't know what that is, if that's a crying fox or a cat, what it is, but it's funny. Thank you, Jen, for the super chat. Allison, what a game indeed. Appreciate you for being here as well. The Grave of Einstein says, I like bunting, but not if it is for a hit. But only if it is for a hit. Auto-corrected to the exact opposite. Epic. Yeah, you got to learn this stuff if you're going to be a member now, and I'm going to read your chats because you're green on the screen. It's all good. And Jen, nice of you to welcome the Grave of Einstein to the Be Safe Daily gang, to the membership. David says, really want Jordan Walker to come back. Him and Winn bring a fun, youthful swagger. And, of course, they're good buddies. Jordan Walker has had better numbers over the course of this month of June in AAA Memphis. But still for the season down there, only a 718 OPS. He's got 2 homers. Both of them have come more recently. Look, I think you can bring him up at any time, honestly, now. But when you think about who's coming back, like I said, Nootbaar, not soon. Edman, I would set the over-under on Edman at July 1st, and I'd probably take the over. I think his rehab, although it's about to begin, is going to take a while. And Wilson Contreras coming back. So outfield-wise, where do you put Jordan Walker? Do you confidently take him out of the lineup or put him in there instead of, say, Donovan and Burleson and Carlson? I just don't know that every day that's going to be something that they're ready to do unless Walker is really forcing the issue. But, David, I think long-term, even when I say long-term, I don't mean like the next 10 years. I mean like down the stretch of this year, Jordan Walker is going to play a huge role on this team. It's just a matter of waiting for that opening, finding it, and then if he gets that chance, really taking advantage of it. Allison was very funny with the bombs away tonight with C70, but of course she said, I picked the wrong inning for Masyn Winn. I mean, I should have known that it was going to go into the 12th. Yeah, I gave her trouble for that on Twitter too. You got to know it's going to go 12 innings, Allison. You got to be better than that. But she adds a hashtag every day, Dylan. Robert does not like DC every day, but I think for the time being, there is a reason to continue to keep him in there and see if you can't build on it. But hey, everybody can disagree, and that's okay. Caleb, welcome in. The Cardinals pitching has just been awesome lately, consistently coming through in tough spots, both the pen and the rotation. Yeah, Sonny was great. I know we kind of poo-poo Miles Michaelis sometimes, but if you look at his numbers over the last 10 starts, 9 of them have been really good. At least a quality start, if not maybe a little better, because some of those shorter outings when he goes 5 innings but only gives up a run or goes 5 2/3, gives up 2, I'll take that over a quality start that is a 6-3 any day, because I think this Cardinals bullpen, although you want to get deep, although you'd like to be able to make sure you are not leaving them overexposed in too many cases, I also would look at it and say, I'm rathering you go 1 run, 2 runs than 3. Right, so for Miles Michaelis, 9 of 10 have been really strong, and now the ERA is down to 4.5. I don't know if he can get it below 4, but the consistency that he's brought should not go unnoticed. He's been really solid recently. Official PJ, oh no, it's gone. Official PJ, I promise you, man, I was trying to read your comment, and I have not been able to find it yet. But Heart of the Order mentions, I was waiting for somebody to see this. I've got the Sonny Gray hat on the bed back there somewhere. Where did I find it? It was a new era, like if you Google like mint gum wrapper, some kind of new era special thing, it sold the night that Sonny wore that hat. I was like, I can't wear Cardinals hats because I'm not a Cardinals fan. I'm a Cardinals reporter. I'm a writer. I'm not. I don't blur those lines for professionalism, right? But I said I have to have the hat. Someday I'll be glad I had that hat so I can sit it up behind me if I can. I know my hat rack is gnarly in the corner, but if I can get a shelf and I can make it look really nice behind me, that's just a cool hat to have on there. So yes, Heart of the Order, you spotted it. I think you were the first one to mention it, but that is exactly what that hat is, and it's really cool. It's like I said, I saw Sonny wearing it. I'm like, I'm probably gonna have that hat. And somebody put it in a link on Twitter, and I'm like, all right, we're buying it. We're doing it. And it sold out the next morning. So I was glad I did. Hashtag Burley Boys Summer. That's from Brett. Scrolling up because I was really trying to find official PJ's comment. Here it is. Even though Goldie hasn't hit well this year, his defense has been good. Good pick to end it. Yeah, he bailed Arenado out there. No question about it. Dale said the throw was so shocking that I didn't even make a sound. That's pretty good. That's a fun reaction. The CB Buckner crew is never good. Yeah, they had some issues tonight, didn't they? They did have some issues tonight. J. Call says, been waiting for them to get over the hump for months, and now that they are, guys are returning. I'll say we're back. J. Call thinks the Cardinals are back. You heard it here first. Cardiac Cards is another comment. Dempsey, hello. I don't think I've seen Dempsey on here before. If the offense takes off 7 over by July, I've called it. Yeah, man, the offense is really all they're missing right now. getting starts from Sonny where he's going 7+. Miles is going 7 from time to time. Pallante, I thought they should have left him in the fourth inning there on Saturday. We had a whole conversation about that on Be Shafe Daily. I'm not saying he is just bona fide your number 5 starter, but let's see what it looks like and maybe give him a little bit of credit and see him work through a spot like that would have been my preference. But Pallante has had more good than bad so far from him in the rotation, so we'll see on that front. Who am I forgetting? Sonny. Lance Lynn, that's the one guy that you probably are wanting to see a little bit more from. Kyle Gibson, that's the other guy who really, unfortunately, on the bereavement list. I don't know the circumstances of that, but hope everything's okay with him and his family. Obviously going through something there. But Wednesday, he's supposed to return off of the list to be able to pitch his normal rotation start on Wednesday. So he's been fantastic. Just a great signing by Mo. But Lance Lynn's the one guy that I think needs to step it up a little bit. He's had 3 starts in a row, not getting through 5. It would be big for him to be able to do it his next time out. But yeah, Dempsey, the offense, if you can keep this rotation, and even right now I would say the bullpen is playing with fire at times, but more often than not, they're still getting away with it. The offense is really all they're missing. And David points out that the offense can't get much worse, so it's bound to get better. Good point. And I do think you get Contreras back. I think that there was like a gear that this team found when Contreras went down where they said, nobody's coming to save us. It's got to be us. We have to do it ourselves. And they pushed through, and I think got a little bit of a jolt from Wilson going down. It took them a minute to catch that fire, but they did, and they went 12 out of 15, and then they kind of stalled out a little bit. They've hung around a little bit below 500 for a couple weeks, and now maybe a win like this after a weekend at Wrigley that you had, maybe this is what can propel them to just get a little bit of distance between them and 500. Get to 3-4 games above 500 to where when you lose a series, you're not back below 500. That's just not a good place to be. It's where they've been for the most part the last 2 years, and now it's a spot where hopefully they're able to sort of slowly but surely build up. And look, they were the second wild card coming into today in the NL. Not the third, the second. The Padres had lost 3 in a row and had dipped below 500 coming into today, and so the Cardinals were trailing only the Braves in that category, and Padres lost again tonight. So like right now, if you just think about playoff stature and where the Cardinals are, it sounds crazy, but they're in a pretty favorable spot when it comes to the wild card standings. And look, it's June, so you don't want to count yourself out from chasing down the Brewers in the division. And I think it's almost to a benefit to the Cardinals that they don't play the Brewers for a while. Work on the games that you can win against the teams that you play, and then when you're good and ready, those Brewers matchups are going to be there waiting. And hopefully with the Cardinals kind of going on a little bit of an uptick here, maybe they're within striking distance of 3, 4, 5 games in Milwaukee when those series happen, and then you got to beat them head-to-head. There is no way to win this division without, when you play the Brewers, beating up on the Brewers, and winning even 2 out of every 3 might not be enough, although it would still help. You might just need to dominate the Brewers, and that's your path back into the division. But if you just think about wild card, and that's a viable way, because let me be honest with you, winning the NL Central this year probably not going to mean that much relative to just winning that top wild card spot, which they're probably not going to do either because the Braves are still a few games up on you in that regard. But only the top 2 teams in each league, division winners, get to have the bye out of the wild card round. That's the Phillies and the Dodgers at this point, right? So the Brewers, if the season ended today, would be hosting the Giants for 2 out of 3, and the Braves would be hosting the Cardinals for 2 out of 3, right? And those 2 winners will end up, so one division winner basically has to play the wild card round anyway. That's probably going to be the Central winner. So if you're the Cardinals, wild card is not the worst thing in the world, but I do think they're going to have to add ahead of the deadline in order to have a stranglehold on a wild card. Because right now you're looking at the Giants. They're in that spot. The Padres have dropped out. The Nationals have won 8 of their last 10 and 3 in a row. They're just on the outside looking in right now. There's a lot of teams within a couple games of the Cardinals. I mean, everybody on down through the Reds and Cubs, which interesting to see the Cubs still losing. I mean, the Mets have passed the Cubs, which they've won 6 in a row. They're back in the conversation. It took something like that for the Mets to do it, but now it seems that they've done it. So they're in the conversation too. It's a big, massive humanity. The Cardinals just need to keep taking care of these types of games, and then they're playing the Giants. They're playing some of those teams that they'll be vying for wild card spots against. It's just going to be important to continue to take the wins that they can get. I really do think it's got to come from the offense, though, improving. They're going to have to find it offensively, or it's not going to be sustainable. That is just the way I look at it. Appreciate you guys for watching. Let's get to 70 likes. I did say we're going to wrap this up a little bit after 11 o'clock, so I'll try to sail through the comments. I do have to give priority on the comments to channel members because I do want to incentivize people to join the channel. It definitely helps my my channel, my career, as I continue to push a lot of my energy into putting out these podcasts and doing YouTubes and things of that nature. But let's go ahead and just keep diving back into the comments. Micah, what do you think about giving more leverage spots to Libby? JoJo seems overused. I won't touch on the overused because I already kind of gave my thoughts on that. But 100% agree, Micah. Libby, to me, has been dominant. I mean, he's been really good as a lefty out of the pen since they took him out of the rotation. And frankly, I do think that I would trust him with – there's not a spot I wouldn't give to Libby. Remember when the Astros were the opponent down there in Houston – Liberatore got the first opportunity against Yordan Alvarez. Totally felt good about that. He has not allowed a run since leaving the rotation in late May, and I just think a guy like that, like, why wouldn't you be using him more? Why is it that he's only pitched 8 times since May 27th, which was the first time that he was out of the rotation? Right? Like, that's, and I guess that's 8 times in, whatever it's been, 21, 22 days. I just think he's been great. He's been really, really good. There's not a lefty in the league that I wouldn't say I would throw him out there. I would give it a look. There's not a lefty in the league. Scotty, appreciate you. He says, I got to bounce 5 a.m. and I need to go to work. Thanks for the live stream. Thanks, Scotty. You'll be able to check up with how it ended up later on YouTube or on Spotify, etc. But thank you for being a channel member, Scotty. You're aces, my friend. Indeed. Maderd said, asked for updates on Riley O'Brien. Also, how do you see Matt's coming back with the 5th starter fiasco in the trade deadline? O'Brien, I believe, and I wish I had it off top of mind for you, but with the team being on the road, I did not go to the Chicago trip at Wrigley. I will be there in August, so I hope some Cardinals fans who are there in August, I would love to be able to say hello to you. So we'll talk more about that as it comes up. But if you're going up there, try to remember that and say, yeah, I want to say hello, whatever, would be a lot of fun. I don't know offhand, but I do know that Riley has been working toward rehab, and I believe he wanted maybe an extra day of recovery more recently, and so that's sort of been the situation with him. It doesn't look like – I see an article from an Alabama site talking about that he has not pitched recently in Birmingham, but would like to return there to Rickwood Field. Evidently, he pitched for Montgomery the last time there was a Rickwood Classic in Birmingham. So that's kind of fun. But it does seem unlikely that he'll be ready by Thursday. But within the next week or two, could Riley be back? I would say yes to that. I would just have to double-check on the newest information. Clay, welcome to the B-Shape Daily Gang. Clay has signed up for the membership to the channel, which gives you, some different things during the live chat. You obviously get the special color to your name, a few different demarcations on the channel, and you're helping support the channel. So appreciate you, Clay, for hopping on. Greg says, what a game could really use a blowout win tomorrow. Yeah, one of these days the Cardinals could use that kind of win where the offense just scores 8 or 9 and doesn't matter who's on the mound. That guy's throwing 80, 90, 100 pitches just to try to get deeper into the game, and you don't have to sweat it out with your top relievers. That's definitely something that the Cardinals could use, and they've been waiting for it for a while. Joe thinks the Cardinals are back. It's a good attitude to have. This would have been a terrible loss, according to Micah, because the Marlins were trying to give this game away. Masyn and Carlson quickly made this actually feel like a good win. I agree with you. It would have felt really gnarly to lose this game, and not the good kind of gnarly at all. J. Call agreeing that the Cardinals need another starter. Matt says, what do they do with Pages and Herrera when Willie comes back? Great question. I'll dive into this for a couple of minutes here, and then I'll really try to scoot to the end of the questions. When it comes to Pages right now, he's the guy defensively. He's starting every game. It's not even really a platoon. He's the starter, and Herrera's going to play because he's a good hitter, and so he's going to DH a decent amount. But when it comes to defensive acumen, it's Pages by a mile. And he showed off the throwing arm a little bit tonight. His game calling has been really good, and I don't want to knock Herrera's ability behind the plate in that regard, but Pages is a major plus in that category, whereas I think you could just say Herrera's been solid, serviceable. We can be complimentary, but his throwing arm has been obviously a problem because guys can run freely against him, and that cannot be an environment that pitchers are very comfortable throwing in. when you know that, hey, if you allow a base runner, it's probably a double or maybe it's a triple. It's something he's got to work on. It's got to be his only focus in the offseason. The Cardinals have always really liked his bat. They needed him to make strides. Remember a couple of summers ago, Yachty was injured, and we saw some Herrera, and it went so poorly that they sent him down for Austin Romine, and that guy came up, and he was just a body to fill, but they needed more veteran experience. They didn't trust Herrera. He's made significant strides since then in his work as a catcher, but the running game is really challenging right now for him, and that's why I think you have to have Pages in there. Now, that being said, when Wilson comes back, he's the everyday catcher. So whose bat do you value more between Herrera or Pages? Probably Herrera, but Pages has also done a nice job at the plate, and I still think you would like to have him around for defensive purposes, but it's not as much of a need if Wilson's catching 5 out of every 7, right? So I don't really know the answer. Right now, I would say you're getting more utility out of both Pages and Herrera than you are Jose Fermin, which feels kind of tough to say because Fermin has been great when he's been with Memphis. He keeps coming up and kind of getting buried on the bench. They tried to give him a look tonight in the starting lineup, and they even batted him number 2 to really try and force the issue there. And he went 1 for 3, but just not a lot of productivity. But it's hard. I mean, when you're that guy, you're just looking for a shot. You're looking for a chance. And Fermin hasn't had much of a chance. It's just going to be one of those things that I think he's going to have to perform without much opportunity in order for them to gain him more consideration. But Pages and Herrera, I think both have their functions. I'm not convinced that the Cardinals are going to see the value in Pages if he's not catching every day. When you need somebody that you can rely upon back there, he's your guy. But if Wilson's there, that's going to be his role. And so what does it look like to have a third catcher? How will they weigh those options? It could be a decision that makes itself, right? Because if you have other injuries or other things take place, it may make it easier to keep 3 catchers. But it's a great question, Matt. I really don't know the answer to it. I would say right now, though, I would keep all 3, and probably Fermin would be the guy that might go. But then you're going to have to make more decisions when Edman comes back, too, and then eventually Nootbaar. So it's easier said than done to map that out right now. It's a very interesting question to follow. Matt, right now for me, it's that question, and it's the Giovanni Gallegos question that are the most interesting to the Cardinals. And the Gio thing is going to be resolved first because he's going to come up within the next couple of days off the IL, and we'll see in his first outing how he looks. K. Neelio says, I think Gio has had, quote, his day in STL. Don't expect him to give us much anymore. Yeah, and look, he's been bad in a rehab assignment, too. If this isn't a guy that had been here for 5-6 years and had built up a lot of equity with the organization, I think he'd be DFA'd off of the IL. Because let's be real, yes, he might have had that shoulder impingement, but he only went on the IL because of his performance. He was performing poorly, and so they were looking for, okay, what's the reason that he's going on the IL? Because for a while they insisted health is fine, health is fine, health is fine. So health couldn't have been fine that whole time, and if it was it ever not fine, and it was just the reason that they had to put him on the IL? You know, you can make your own determinations on what you think about that, but I think they were just trying to find him some space, some rest, and then to be able to attack the things he needed to fix, and it didn't happen. His ERA in rehab is 11. You know, it was 12 in the big leagues. If Gio comes back and is bad, I don't think there can be a very long leash. I think they would have to just go ahead and make the unfortunate business decision very quickly. But it's a hard thing with a guy that's got that much equity to do it before even letting him come back because he struggled in his rehab. But, you know, is that maybe the right business decision? It could be. But I think they'll give Gio one last shot. It just cannot be in a game that's close. You just can't right now. He struggled too much for that. So we'll see what ends up happening there, K. Neelio. But I agree. It's looking kind of bleak for our guy right now. Chuck says pitching. And FF asked if we're going to question Oli tonight. Well, we already talked about it at length, the decision to pull Sonny, and Monday is asking about it as well. We talked about it. Look, I would have done it differently. I would have kept Sonny in there, especially after hearing his post-game comments, which were not very fruitful at all. He didn't really want to throw anybody under the bus. He didn't want to say there was discord or he disagreed with the decision. But he did say that he really had the mindset that he wanted to finish the game. So I don't think that is a circle that is squared by getting taken out after 84 pitches. Sounds like he would have rather been in there. Sounds like it was not a case, at least according to the senses I got watching the postgame, that he was wanting to be taken out, was asking for it, as has happened other times. I don't think that's what he did tonight. So I understand it. I would have done it differently. I also like what I boiled it down to is I would have changed what they did because of the fact that Chisholm was not even the tying run. If you're pitching that well, you get the opportunity as the ace of the staff to, unless you're asking out of the game, which I don't think he did, you get the opportunity to at least wait until the tying run is at the plate. And until De La Cruz came up, that wasn't the case. So that is why I disagreed with taking him out. But I also understood it because Chisholm was 2 for 2 with a walk against Sonny Gray, also had a triple. He had his number that night. And Oli Marmol said, we've got this guy available in the pen. If anything, man, I want to see Libby in some of those spots. It doesn't always have to be JoJo. And that's something that I think Oli does need to make an adjustment, not because it's an anti-JoJo take, it's a pro-Libby take. You could be having an Andrew Miller type of weapon out there for you, and I don't think he's getting enough run. Just me personally. Trevor makes the point that the power at the deadline comes from Jordan Walker if he gets right, and that could be where it comes from because there's a way to get him in there. Zomni, what's up? Glad you're here. Right-handed bench bat would be nice, Matt. You're 100% right. 2 good comments from Matt tonight. David says, trade Arenado and Goldschmidt for young, controllable players. That's not how it works, David. I appreciate the thought, but it's just not how it works, man. Neither Arenado or Goldie are performing right now. If those guys were performing as MVP caliber guys, you could do that, but you also wouldn't do that because you're a contending team. The Cardinals are not making sell moves for controllable players. They are going to be buying to try and add to the team. If you want to make the case that Burleson would be a better first baseman to the team than Goldie, make the case. I think they're going to write it out with Goldie and Arenado this year in a winning window. They're going to try to win this year. They're not trading away veterans for future pieces. I think this is from the Grave of Einstein. I think if they're going to add anything, it's bullpen help at the deadline. They were going to rely on Middleton to come in and solidify things, but now that his season's over, they need a guy like that. They do. They need their Middleton. And he still has more WAR than Phil Maton, by the way. The Phil Maton crap over the offseason was some of the dumbest things that ever happened on Cardinals Twitter, and I am proud to have never gotten involved in it at much level at all. I just didn't understand. Like, is it because he's kind of local? What's the reason that everybody was obsessed? Never got it. I'm not anti the guy, but it was like, come on, relax. Jeff said taking him out was a good call. I'd rather have him more refreshed in September, possibly October. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Appreciate that thought, Jeff. That's a good point. Jen wants you to be like Einstein and join the gang. Makes you smarter. David says, turn the game off after the 8th to play putt-putt. Thought we had it in the bag. Was shocked by the score when I finally looked at my phone. David, there's nothing wrong with that, though. Playing a little putt-putt. I'd like to go play some golf or some putt-putt sometime soon. It's been a minute for me, and I need to get back out there. Dempsey said the Cards sure win ugly, but a win's a win. Yeah, and this is a good point. They made it on the post game. 21-12 in the last 32 games. Yeah, Dempsey, I heard that as well. That is the best record in baseball over that stretch. Now, that's a little bit of an arbitrary endpoint, like why 32? Well, they chose the stat because that's the stat that makes it look like they're the best team in baseball over that stretch, but it's true. They are. So that's something, right? They've had stretches in between that where it hasn't looked so good, but I think largely they're playing better baseball. It's undeniable at this point. They have got to hit. It's still going to be the thing that decides their season, in my opinion. And Steven, thank you for reposting a comment that I didn't get to earlier because sometimes I just scroll past them. Like I know somebody, too, asked about Steven Matz. I didn't really address it. Yeah, Matz is rehabbing, and he's going to come back, and he's going to take Palante's spot because Palante is kind of the forgotten man right now, and he's probably going to go back down to Memphis. But at least they know that if they need another guy, Palante's there to at least be serviceable. But do I think that Matz is for sure going to be better than Palante? I don't. I think I'd rather take my bets on Palante right now, but they're not going to do that, right? They're going to have Matz have a chance to win his spot back, and there have been moments where Matz has been really good, but they have not been consistent moments, so we'll see if he can string them together. But, Steven, I'll get to your reposted question now as we begin to wind this down in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I cannot stay for too much longer, but appreciate you guys and the enthusiasm you have had for tonight's podcast. It's been great. Hopefully YouTube doesn't screw me on the money here. I did say I was going to get to it. Let me find it. I got to scroll for it, Steven. Does the value Pages brings to catching mean that when Wilson comes back, could he be the daily catcher Wilson DHs? Ivan back down to AAA due to the pure defensive production. Ivan could get sent down. I don't think that it's going to be Pages daily catcher and he unseats Wilson. I do not believe that comes. I think you could see, if Pages remains on the roster, I think you could see Wilson catch 4 times a week, Pages 2, Herrera 1. Maybe, but that's also getting a little bit dicey. Like, would they really want to have 3 catchers see regular playing time? But you also don't want, at this stage of his career, Herrera to just be a DH. So maybe they do send him down. His offense is the thing that can keep Herrera up, right? Because that's going to be his main calling card. But if he starts to struggle at the plate and Pages is heating up at the plate, I could see them say, hey, Herrera, this is your chance to play every single day in AAA for, like, even just up until the All-Star break. And then we're going to bring you back, but you've got to work on the throwing. It has to be a priority and something he can do at a lower level. I don't think it's a crazy thought. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I also could understand. Jason, do you think the team is going to fall apart when Gio and Matz come back? No, I don't think they'll be put into a spot where they'll be allowed to fall apart because of Gio. They're going to be very careful about where they put him at first. It's going to be like he's a guy coming up from AAA that has to prove himself, like Roycroft when he first came up. You're getting those low leverage spots for a little while, in my opinion. And Matz, look, I think you are willing to make a move on Matz if he struggles. Like, if he doesn't pitch well, I don't know that they're just going to let him ride off for the rest of the season in that 5 spot. But his numbers hadn't been terrible until he got hurt. And then I think the back really started to deal, and it was a problem for Steven Matz. So we'll see. But no, I don't think they're going to fall apart when those guys come back. Adam wants to know, or he finally says, Walker is finally sweet spotting the ball while hitting for power. Yeah, he'll come up soon. If I would set the over-under at All-Star break, and I'd probably say a little bit before. But where's he going to play? Those are going to be questions as well. Allison, I did not get a City Connect jersey. I don't wear Cardinal stuff, so I don't really buy it. The hat was a different thing, though. It's a snapback, too. It's a golf hat. It's just really cool. I had to buy it. The Chipmunks of TikTok say that they listen to my show daily. Thanks. Well, I'm glad that you do that, Chipmunks of TikTok. Maybe you can teach me how to do TikTok, because I have not to this point been able to figure it out. The other thing I haven't been able to figure out is MLB The Show streaming. One issue I have is my T-Mobile internet, and you won't believe me that this is real, but it is. I cannot play online games against other people with T-Mobile internet unless I reset my whole thing, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a well-known thing with MLB The Show and T-Mobile internet. And Spectrum just sent me a new like offer for like cheap internet. I might go back to Spectrum just so I can play the show. But also I would worry that it would mess things up for my radio show and these live streams. We've been pretty good, knock on wood, with T-Mobile internet on the live streams, and I would hate to go back and mess that up. But anyway, I'm working on the streaming MLB The Show thing. I almost did it last week, but it was so slow. The settings were wrong. I still have to tinker with it some more. But that'll be on the YouTube channel as well. Once I do it, it'll be on here. Let's see here. Brewers behind in the 8th. That was the update from a couple of minutes ago. Let me check out what's going on there. And they did end up losing, so that's helpful to the Cardinals as well. Arenado, Scott points out 0 for 6 tonight, 1 homer and 56 ABs. It's been rough for him still, and it's kind of been the story of his season. Snips says, beside the shaky bullpen, which I would say the bullpen's not shaky, it's actually a strength. But I understand your point when they're always like Isringhausening or Ryan Franklining or Dave Viersing, just like trying to find a way to blow it. But the Cardinals keep finding a way to win. Can't wait for Wilson and Tommy to get back. Yeah, Tommy, again, if Michael Ciani is OPSing 525, Tommy comes back and OPS is 690. That's a stark improvement, and I still think he plays good center as well. So that could end up being a difference. Clay says, I missed a great game again. Glad to see still recovering well from the drive-by shooting, Brenden. Yeah, that was something. I won't talk any more about that tonight, but we can get into that another time. Glad we've got good stuff to talk about now. Heck yeah, Clay, and thank you for hopping on board, man. Appreciate you. Redbirds wants to see Nato get going. That would help him. Him or Goldie, you get one of those guys going, it ends up being huge. Brian, love the take that Thomas Govain had on getting guys back from the IL. It's like making a huge trade for position players, and with the guys that they are going to be getting back, could be a huge bump. Yeah, people make fun of Mo for like, oh, it's just like making a trade. It's not really that Mo actually says that, but you can look at this point and say, that is like making a trade to get Wilson back. it's not that Mo gets credit for the trade. It's just that the lineup's going to be better with Wilson in it. That's a given. Matt said, how could I forget Austin Romine? Clay, thank you once again, man. Love the channel, love our birds, he says, so keep the momentum going. Thank you for hopping on as a channel member for sure. Yep, Fermin was 1 for 3. B. Wells, that's true. Better than Nato tonight. Nato struggled. John said, why not let Fermin play backup shortstop? Get rid of Crawford, especially with Edman coming back. Look, there have been opportunities. If they wanted Jose Fermin to play backup shortstop, he would have played it by now. Would you believe me if I told you he's never played shortstop in the big leagues once, not a singular time? I think that stat is still true. It was as of earlier this year. I don't remember that they have brought him in at all. So, look, they don't want him in that spot. They don't think he's got the arm for it, whatever the case might be. And I'll say this about Brandon Crawford. Like, he's been playing a lot better. The numbers since May 12th, 1079 OPS. He's OPSing over 1,000. Granted, that's 17 plate appearances. But, like, Brandon Crawford has actually shown some juice, and he was 1 for 1 with 2 walks yesterday before he left the game with a cramping issue, I believe it was. I'm no longer on that bandwagon of, like, get Brandon Crawford out of here. No way. I mean, he's actually producing when he's out there. So, no, I would say Fermin, backup shortstop, is not something I'm on board with right now. Jackson, is it too soon to buy World Series tickets? It's never too soon. Always buy them. Just spend the money. Can't take it with you, right? Clay is not in on Crawford either, but again, go look at those box scores, Clay. I mean, he's been playing a lot better recently. I understand he had a really bad start, but he's coming around. Einstein was talking about the Wusuk Go stuff as well, being crazy in the offseason. Yeah, I was a little bit more thinking that would have been something that made sense, but, you know, that's because I thought the Cardinals scouted the Korean leagues and the Japanese leagues. Well, apparently they do, because they didn't go head over heels to sign Go, and he was bad. Hector Neris is another one that has not panned out from the offseason. A lot of relievers that we thought was, that we thought were palatable options that didn't get signed, and it happens. Simon, thank you for the super chat, but don't be sad about Jordan Walker. He'll be back soon. But thank you, Simon. I do appreciate the Superman. I'm trying to like it. There you go. Put a heart on you. Thanks, brother. Spencer, I remember Crawford being a menace against the Cardinals in the NL Championship. Yeah, he was. And he's playing okay now. We can give him a break. We can give Brandon Crawford a rest because he's actually, every time he's played, he's been good the last, 5 times. Okay. It is 11:17. Neilio, thank you for watching, man. Spencer, appreciate you. Pajes may start to contend with Contreras defensively. Yeah, he's really good. Pajes is very good defensively. Allison wants some predictions for tomorrow's game, and Jeff is talking about seeing Contreras later this week play in Memphis. That's going to be a lot of fun. And he'll probably be fun during a rehab game, too. Let that personality shine through for the fans there. Allison wants a prediction for tomorrow, and I am going to look up the matchup. It is Lance Lynn going for the Cardinals against Roddery Munoz. I've never heard of this guy, but he's pitched 5 starts for the Marlins, 4.5 ERA, averages a K per inning, and I don't think he's probably faced the Cardinals much. So I'm gonna say there's probably an advantage to the Marlins, because sometimes it seems like when the Cardinals face a guy that they haven't really seen, it tends to be the advantage to the pitcher. But I'm checking real quick here to see if he's faced the Cardinals, because he did pitch a little bit last year. No, he is not. So I'm going to say, look, offense has to do it, Allison, because tomorrow Lance Lynn's probably going to go 5 and give up 3 runs. Maybe this is the time where he really steps it up. Cardinals have been waiting to see that from him, but we'll see. Brian, thank you for thanking me for the live stream. Spencer says 3-1 Cardinals win. I said coming into the series that the Cardinals would win 2 out of 3, but the fact that they got the first one in crazy fashion, maybe they play loose tomorrow and they score some runs. I am not ready to say that I see it yet, though. But I'll be a homer for you guys and say they'll win it. Another close one, 5-4. And I don't have extreme confidence in the Cardinals scoring 5. And I don't have extreme confidence right now in Lance Lynn. But if he goes 5 innings, gives up 4 runs, I guess the bullpen with Helsley probably available could keep it there. You won't have Fernandez. You won't have Kittredge. It might be multi-innings from Roycroft and Leahy tomorrow. Or maybe it's Gio. That's the problem. You can't almost send out Leahy for Gio tonight or tomorrow, because what if you need somebody in a one-run game? I'd rather have Leahy right now than Gio. So we'll see. But Allison, that's my answer. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. I said I'd be done at 11. I made it to 11:20. I got to as many chats as I could. If I missed your chat, it's Spencer, you put some on late, man. Winn is elite, 100%. If I missed some of your chats, I do apologize. Join the channel membership. It's a way to guarantee I see your chats. Jared hopping in to say he listens every day while mowing. Yeah, that's a way to do it, man. Get yourself outside this summer. Do some mowing. I need to do some more mowing. I went on a walk today. Anyway, that's a way to make sure I see your comments a little bit more often. But thank you guys so much for listening, for watching, for being a part of this all summer long. It doesn't end here. So thank you guys. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. We'll talk to you next time on Be Shafe Daily and Be Shafe Daily Live. Peace.